Today, pag-uusapan natin kung paano gumawa ng Gantt chart sa Excel, showing yung plan, schedule, and yung actual progress ng project in one view. Automatic din ito mag-update if may babaguhin tayo sa dates ng project. Ipapakita ko din sa inyo kung paano lagyan ng chart ng report date so we can clearly see nasa na yung progress ng project. So, let's get into it. Okay, meron ako ditong table of activities and during planning, sinet ko yung start date ng each activity and yung target completion. From these dates, we can get the duration by subtracting the end date and the start date. And we add 1. We add 1 because sinasama natin yung start date sa counting ng duration. So that if yung activity is nag-start and nag-end on the same day, let's say for example, this is also 8-9, it should give us 1 work day. Now we can fill this down to the rest of activities to get the duration. Dito sa kabila naman is the actual date of the project. As you can see, this activities already has progress. Take note that before tayo makagawa ng Gantt chart, kailangan meron tayong start at end date. We have no problem sa activity A. Since completed na to, we have recorded start and end date from the past so we can use that to create Gantt chart. Itong ibang activities naman is in progress. Although we have start date, wala pa tayong end date since hindi pa ito tapos. What we can do is to have projection kung kailan ito matatapos. Since projection lang yung date na ilalagay natin, it makes more sense na dito ko siya ilalagay sa kabilang table. Let's say ito yung nakikita kong date na matapos itong mga activities nito. With this, meron na akong both start and end date and pwede na tayo makagawa ng Gantt chart on these activities. Now, for the rest of activities na wala pang progress, we have to anticipate both start date and end date. The start date will be based on the dependencies of each activity. So, to make it simple, pagpalagay natin na all of these activities has a simple relationship and each activity will start after the other. If that's the case, yung activity A natin should start after activity B. If in-expect natin na matapos yung activity D by September 5, makakapag-umpisa yung activity in natin by September 6. So, we put here September 6. Now, for the end date naman, ibabase natin to sa expected duration activity. So, base sa planned schedule natin, kaya matapos yung activity nito in 8 days. So, bibilang tayo ng 8 days mula sa expected start natin na September 6. So, if we're going to use the formula, we can add the start date and the duration. But make sure you subtract 1 because remember, nagdagdag tayo kanina ng 1 when computing the duration. We can do the same on the next activities. They can start after the previous activity. So if matatapos yung activity E ng September 13, activity F can start on September 14. And then we copy the formula to get the end date. Now, for activity G, if matatapos yung activity F ng September 28, makakapag-umpisa yung G ng September 29. Ng September 29. And we can also copy the formula for the end date. Now that we have start and end date of each activities, we can now create Gantt chart from this. Take note that charts need consistency. And as you can see on our table, may mga cells na blank and yung ibang date is nasa ibang column. If dealing with this kind of data, I personally create another table na pwedeng pagbasihan ng charts. Dito sa kabila, gumawa pa ako ng isang table and I call this data preparation table. Gumagawa ako nito so I can manipulate the data to make it simple and consistent for our chart. So, ito yung mga columns natin and madali lang to since yung mga data na ilalagay lang din natin dito is mga galing dito sa kabilang table. Now, for activities, we can equate this dun sa activities sa kabilang table. So, let's equate this and then we can fill this down. For the actual start date naman, meron tayong 2 columns na pagkukunan. So, that's the start date and the expected start. Yung gagawin natin is if walang actual date, like this one, we will use expected date. So, we will use this. Otherwise, yung actual date mismo yung gagamitin natin. We can achieve this using the if formula. So, I'll type in if. So, I'll check if the start date is empty. So we can equate this to empty double quotation marks, then comma. If it is empty, I'll get the value of expected start date. Otherwise, if may value yung start date natin, kukunin natin yung actual start. So that's the formula. So we can fill this down to the rest of the activities. So ito yung lalabas ng mga actual dates. Now before we get the duration, let's determine first yung end date. Again, like what we did in start date, if end date is empty, gagamitin natin yung expected date. So let's use the if formula again. Equals, if end date is empty, I will use expected end date. Otherwise, I will use the end date itself. So we can fill this down. And ito na yung magiging end date ng iba pang mga activities. After we determine the start and end date, we can now determine the duration. So remember the formula, end date minus start date. But this time, hindi tayo mag-add ng 1 because charts treat the dates differently. In charts, instead of having 2 lines to represent the start and end date, ang ipapakita lang nito is 1 line. So we don't add 1 in the formula. Now we can fill this down para sa iba pang activities to get the number of days. After natin makuha yan, pwede natin idagdag yung progress bar sa Gantt chart natin like this one. Kailangan lang natin itong number of days completed. Now, ito yung gagawin natin. If wala pang progress yung activity, automatically 0 yung number of days completed. If may progress na to, ima-minus natin yung report date sa actual start ng activity para makuha yung number of days completed. Lastly, if 100% complete na yung project, kukunin natin yung subtraction ng actual end date and the actual start date. Now, of course, we can do this manually, but it's much better if we use the formula. To achieve this, gagamit ako ng combination ng if and min formula or minimum formula. First, let's use if formula. If percent complete is 0, then the number of days completed obviously is 0. Otherwise, pipili ako between the report date and the actual end date. Pwede natin gamitin yung min or minimum formula to choose between the two. So I'll type in min. Then I'll select the end date and report date. Don't forget to fix the reference cell of the report date. So you can press F4 to fix the reference. Ang ginagawa ng minimum formula is if yung activity is in progress, the end date is on a much later date than the report date. Therefore, ang pipiliin ng minimum formula is yung report date, which is what we want on the activities that's in progress. For the completed activities naman, since end date is earlier than report date, ang pipiliin ng minimum function is the end date. Now, we can subtract the start date to this. So let's subtract the start date. And that's the formula. We can fill this down for the rest of activities. After natin sa number of days completed, we get the planned dates naman. Since we have that one sa kabilang table, we can use that. So let's equate this sa kabilang table. Then let's fill this down. After that, we get the number of days for planned dates. So we subtract end date and the start date. And let's fill this down. After natin ma-prepare itong mga data, we can finally add Gantt chart. If I select these columns and go to Insert and Bar Chart, we have several options here. For this, we will use the stock bar chart. If itatapat natin yung cursor dito sa button, makikita natin yung preview ng chart and ito yung magiging itsura niya. Magkasama yung activity and yung date sa isang axis. This is because Excel is trying to predict what we want to achieve, pero hindi yan yung gusto natin mangyari. What we want is yung activities natin nasa vertical axis and yung dates is nasa horizontal axis. Now, there are several ways to do this. You can insert a blank chart and select the data manually, or you can full Excel to display the correct chart. Palitan muna natin yung number format ng mga dates na to. So let's select these dates and let's go to home. And then we change the number format to general. Now, ito yung lalabas na numbers and ito yung numerical equivalent ng mga dates na yun. Now, let's select again this data and then click insert, go to bar. Ito na yung lalabas na chart which is yung gusto natin mangyari. So, let's add this. Lagay lang natin dito yung chart natin so we can clearly see. And then, pwede na natin ibalik yung number format nito into date format. On this chart, mapapansin nyo na baliktad yung order ng activities. Now, to fix this, double mouse click this and look for categories in reverse order. Check that and babalik sa normal yung order of activities. The blue bar chart represents the actual start date. Pero ayoko makita yan sa Gantt chart ko. So, let's hide it. Select this fill icon. Then on the fill, let's select no fill. Now, nagkaroon tayo ng malaking space and we have no use for that. So, iusod natin yung bar chart natin. Let's click these dates. And dito sa properties, select natin yung axis options. May makikita tayo dito ang minimum. So, let's change this from 20 to 40. Now, hindi natin kailangan yung legend. So, let's delete this. And yung vertical grid lines. So, let's delete this. Now, to display the number of days completed, we can use error bars. Let's select the invisible bars, then click the chart elements. Now, check the error bars. Click the arrow and select more options. Babaguhin natin yung settings ng horizontal bars. For direction, I'll choose plus. And for end style, no cap. For error amount naman, let's choose custom. And let's select the range of number of days completed. Now, to make it more visible, lakihan natin yung line weight. Click this fill icon. Then on the width, let's use 6. Palitan din natin ng kulay. Let's make it green. Now, for the bar chart naman itself, palitan din natin ng kulay. Let's make it gray. Then, reflected na yung days completed sa chart natin. Now, nandito na tayo sa point na idadagdag natin yung plan sa ating chart. Para hindi masyadong confusing yung chart, magdadagdag ako ng thin lines just below the bar chart to represent the plan. Now, ito yung tricky part. Gagamit kasi ako ng scatter plot dito to show the plan instead of the stock bar. Now, para magamit yung scatter plot, kailangan natin ng data values on the x and the y axis. Now, sa x-axis, we have the dates. But on the y-axis, kailangan ko ng numbers. And by default sa Excel, ito yung 0, then ito yung 1, 2, and 3, and so on. Ngayon, gusto ko ilagay yung plan just below this bar. So, if yung first bar is nasa 1, I'd like to put the plan somewhere between 0 and 1. So, let's say 0.3. So, I'll put here, meron ako table na ginawa for the y-axis. So, I'll put here 0.3. Then, for the other activities, I'll add 1 as increment. So, I'll copy the formula for the rest of activities and these are the numbers. Now, pwede na natin ipakita yung mga plan dates dito using scatter plot. So, let's right mouse click the chart, then select data. Let's click add. Sa series name natin, let's select plan start date. Now, for the series values, let's select the values on the y-axis. What happened here is akala ng Excel gusto natin maglagay ng additional stock dun sa ating bar chart. But hindi yung gusto natin mangyari. So, let's click this bar and then right-click, change series chart type. Make sure na nasa combo tayo and for the plan start, select natin yung scatter. Now, automatically mag-a-add ng secondary axis yan sa ating chart and ito yung lalabas. Notice na nawala yung bar. It's because wala pa tayong x-axis and Excel doesn't know where to plot the values. So, let's mouse right-click again the chart, then select data. Now, select natin itong plan start date and click edit. For the series X values, let's select the plan start date. Now, it will show these dots. Ayoko ng dots and gusto ko is bar or line. Now, pwede ulit natin gamitin yung error bar trick na ginawa natin kanina. So, let's select these dots and then let's select chart elements and then check natin tong error bars. Now, ayoko ng vertical bars, so let's delete that. And then for horizontal bars, let's edit it. So, I'll select this arrow and then more options. Dito, sa horizontal error bar, select natin yung plus and then for style, no cap. Now, for the custom values, let's select the number of days of the plan. Now, para mas makita natin, lakihan natin yung line weight. So, let's go here and let's choose 3. Let's change the color to yellow. Now, after that, meron pa ring dot na natitira dito. So, gusto kong tanggalin yung dot. So, I'll select these dots and let's go to fill options. And then on the marker, select natin tong marker options. Then dito, click natin yung none. So, let's close this. And then, wala na yung ating dots dito sa ating Gantt chart. So, that's it. Nakikita na natin yung actual and planned dates sa isang chart. We can easily say na sa activity A, delay ako. Then, on activity C, nakahabol na ako. On activity, ahead na ako. And my projection na succeeding activities will also be ahead. Now, one last thing na dadagdag natin sa chart is yung report date. By showing the report date, makikita ko kung nasa na yung progress ng project. To add the report date, gagamit ulit ako ng scatter plot. But let me fill this column first. Ang ilalagay ko rito is yung report date. And I'll fix the reference so I can drag this down. Now, let's add data on our chart. So, let's right-click on the chart and then select data. Now, click Add. On the series name, select natin yung report date. Now, on the X values, let's select these dates. For the Y series or the Y values, we select the Y axis. Now, parang walang nangyari. It's probably because white din yung fill ng dots or it has no color. Every time na maka-encounter ka ng something like this, na invisible yung line or dots, you can go here, right-click, and then format plot area. Now, dito sa drop-down, hanapin mo lang yung series name. So, yung recent na ginawa natin is the report date. So, let's select the report date. As you can see, yung dots is nasa chart natin, pero hindi lang visible. Now, since ayoko naman ng dots, so let's continue to hide it. So, what I want is a line connecting these dots. So, let's go here. So, i-activate ko lang itong solid lines and change the color to gray. Now, for the transparency, we can set this to 40%. Now, for the width, okay na yan. And let's add arrows. Basically, you can stop here. Pero pwede pa natin to i-edit further. Gusto ko broken line instead of solid line. So, I'll select this. And I'll select this dash line. I want to add text labels sa taas reflecting today's date. So, I'll select here. Make sure na isang dot lang yung selected. Then right-click. Add labels. Now, to edit this, let's double-click this. And then lalabas itong options na to. Meron tayo ditong several options kung ano yung gusto nating ipakita. Now, gusto ko ipakita yung report date, which is the X value. Then, tatanggalin natin yung Y value. And then yung letter lines. Now, gusto ko rin ipakita yung series name. So that it represent the report date. Now, gusto ko ilagay siya sa taas. So, dito sa label position, let's select above. So, ito na yung ating report date. So, we can edit this further. So, we can add borders. Let's add solid line borders. And then, for the fill, let's add fill. Let's select white. And we can have a transparency of 50%. So that kahit nandito yung ating report date is makikita natin kung ano yung nasa likod niya. So, we can click this now. And let's test this if gumagana to. Now, for example, gusto natin palitan yung report date ng August 30. So, dapat mag-move yung ating report date ng August 30. And since we expect na yung activity na to is matatapos na August 27, pag naglagay tayo ng report date dito na August 30, i-assume niya na natapos talaga natin siya by August 27. Now, if ilipat ulit natin siya, let's say for example, September 5, so magmumove lang din yung ating report date. We can now rename the title. So, i-rename natin yung title is into a fully featured Gantt chart. So, yan. Yan ang ating Gantt chart. So, that's basically how you create a fully featured Gantt chart. If you like this video, I'd like to hear from you in the comments, and check out my other videos in project planning, Excel tutorial, and Primavera P6 tutorial. Now, meron ako na unang version on creating Gantt chart in Microsoft Excel. And if you want to learn more about that, you can watch this video.